It's on, so
Yeah, we're good to go.
Ian Munro, thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it, mate. My first question for you is, could you just sum up sort of when you started doing music and how that's all started for you to where you are today, if you like the history of Ian, you know?
The history of Ian.
Yeah.
I started playing like instruments and stuff when I was younger. Like a random high school band came and played at my primary school, and I was like so hyped. I like ran home and I'm like, "Mum, I want to do the drums. Like that's so cool. Like I want to do that." And she was like, "Nah, it's too loud. You got to do something better." And she was like, "We'll get you a guitar." So I started on there. Played it. I like kind of liked it at the time, but I wasn't really fully into it. Then a couple of years later, we eventually moved to a place where I could have like a garage. We got some drum sets going, and I started doing that. It was the same sort of deal. I was never like, I enjoyed it a lot. I loved playing, but I never really liked practicing as much, so I wasn't really into it. Then NCA music happened, and I was just doing terribly. I was like the worst student. The teacher was an asshole. He would like call me out on everything. I was doing really badly in my composition, so I went home and I opened up GarageBand, and I was just fiddling around with it. And I'm like, this is actually like really sick. Like I really like making music like this. Like it's just the way that kind of, I don't know, something about it being on a computer has kind of kept my attention a little bit longer than actually having to physically walk somewhere, go practice. And I don't know, it's probably a bit of a cop out, but that's kind of how I started, and that's just, I ended up enjoying it. I just kept doing it, and then it kind of just started building, and then ended up just kind of stumbling into a career in music, which I mean, I'm not complaining about that. That's cool.
Yeah, awesome. So like, what are you sort of doing nowadays then?
Music wise?
Yeah.
Just trying to put out as much stuff as possible, to be fair. With like the internet and everything, it's all about however many tracks you can just get out as like quickly as possible. And it's like, you want it to be quality, but you also want it to be quantity as well. You want it to be good and everything. So I'm just trying to produce as fast as I can. I'm not really one who can produce fast, so a lot of my stuff's a little bit slower than other people, so I'm hoping to put something out over Christmas, then a couple things out start of next year, then building up towards the next EP. So,
And you mentioned you started off using GarageBand. What sort of what softwares are you using nowadays?
So I was on GarageBand for like an embarrassingly long time.
Yeah.
So I kind of learned all the back routes. You can like run like all these like synth plugins like Massive and stuff through GarageBand. So it was kind of the same. It just sucked.
Yeah.
And eventually a friend hooked me up with a totally not legal version of Ableton, and I decided using that, and eventually I bought it, and I actually I'm just using Ableton and all those things, and stock standard.
Awesome. So do you have like because you obviously DJ as well, do you have like your home setup where you sort of get all your practice done, like a little space for you?
Not really. Like I bought a little Tractor S4, and I played off that for like the longest time, so like MIDI controller, and I just got like, it was cool and it was fine. Like I did my thing, and like I wasn't using the sync and stuff. I wasn't cheating, but I was playing with Reed Speed in Hamilton. She was just like, "Yeah, you played a 6-set, but it sounded like shit because it was getting compressed through all the stuff." So I gave up, and I'm like, alright, I need to just learn. I learned on like some terrible stuff that one of the Stack and Peace boys showed me to do, and then I did my first time ever on George FM, which was like the most nerve-wracking thing. So since then, I've been using CDJs, but other than that, I don't have anything at home to practice on, so I kind of get all my practice in at shows, so that's kind of the extent of what I can do.
True. So would you say CDJs are like, at most gigs, they got their own CDJs there, or?
Yeah, it's definitely the standard. I mean, like, a mixer like this is pretty common too, so you've got like, you've just got usually that and two, and then I usually prefer to have three, at least four, or at least three, usually four if I can, so that's pretty standard across the board anyway.
Okay, awesome. Where are some places that you're like performing at the moment, sort of like ritualistically you're always going back, that provide you gigs sort of frequently? Is there any places that you could name?
There's I mean, in Sydney, I'm doing Chinese Laundry and The Wall over there a lot, which, I mean, they're crazy. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos, but like all the crowds are just kind of next level. They all love everything, which is great. It's great for me. Locally, the We Move boys hook it up with the Sounds of the Underground stuff and the occasional gig here and there, which is always nice. They've been supporting me kind of since day one, so that's really good. And then Hamilton, just in general, all of them, like I had my first gig there, so I've just always loved going back. Everyone there is just, it's a different level. Like Hamilton's just I'd say easily the best place in New Zealand to play for bass music at least.
I never would have thought Hamilton would be a hub like that.
So many people knock it, eh? Like my first gig there, I got the whole like STD thing. They're like, "Oh, try not to catch an STD in the class," but like, it's actually so sick. Like it's such a different vibe. Like everyone just goes out to like have fun, listen to music. Whereas like I feel like it's a little bit different in Auckland. Sometimes you get like a little more people like to go out where it's like cool. They like to go out to like pick up and shit. But like it's Hamilton's good.
Fair enough. When you're at school and you're in your music class and whatnot, were you DJing on the side then?
I had to learn to DJ because I was getting requests. So like I didn't start DJing until like at least 18.
Okay.
I remember getting like Daniel Farley, who now runs Impala and stuff and all those things. He offered me a gig ages ago and I had to straight up turn him down because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I was so stoked. I wanted to know. I wanted to play. I wanted to go out and do this stuff, but I didn't know what to do. So I turned him down, and then I kind of got back into it, and eventually picked myself up to kind of have the balls to do another gig. So, kind of just happened. Yeah.
So the gig sort of just came organically with the music you were producing.
Yeah, which I mean, I kind of feel like I cheated it a little bit because like so many people ask me how to get gigs, and I don't really know how to help them all the time because like, I mean, my best advice obviously is to network and stuff. I got the gigs I got because people wanted to like book me for my music, but I'd also met them originally. They knew that I wasn't like an asshole. Like they wanted to do cool stuff with me, so that was awesome. But it did kind of happen organically for me. I just kind of fell into having these gigs. I'd put music up online, and then like a couple months down the track, I'd have some guy asking me to play a show in like Hamilton. So I was like, that was awesome for me, and then it just kind of catapulted from there. Yeah.
So when you made that decision, did you make a decision that you want to do music full time, or did you sort of just like appear?
It like literally everything in my like music career has just kind of happened, and I kind of just roll with it, which I mean I guess is kind of cool. It's kind of how I am. But I didn't really consciously make the decision until quite late into it. Like I'm still going to uni actually. I've got like another paper left, which is so good. I'm nearly done. But I was going to uni to make films and stuff, so I wanted to do films and editing and stuff and all that stuff. And then music just kind of took off, and I was like, wow, this is really like, I really enjoy this a lot more than I do anything else. And it kind of just eventually just became my main priority. I kind of stopped going to class as much as I should have, and then I kind of just, took over. It became me.
Yeah. Nice. When you started producing music and all that, did your following come quite naturally in a way, or did you have to put a lot of effort in?
I guess the same with anything. Like if you put out tracks online, nobody's just gonna listen to them. Like the internet's so like big, you kind of get lost in a bunch of stuff. You kind of, I mean, like when I first started, it was like remixing and stuff was huge on SoundCloud, especially. It was when the copywriting wasn't necessarily as sophisticated as it is now. So like, if I put something up there, it wouldn't get taken down within like 5 minutes. Like it could just live up there. I'd gain a couple hundred followers off it, and then just like take it down once I started getting a little bit of like legal trouble from it. But nowadays, like I think there's a huge thing with like covers and stuff. A lot of people are doing like all these covers and things. It's kind of the way to kind of bridge off something that people know, so that people are kind of directed to you. Because like originals are great. Like I'm all about originals. I'm not really remixing tunes anymore, apart from the occasional one. But I think it's so much better just putting out something original of your own, but you need a platform to be able to do that and have it make sense. Otherwise people will just never find your track.
Would you have any advice for those people like starting off in a similar position that you started off but today?
I guess best advice is just kind of do a bunch of stuff. Like just try different things. Like, I mean, if you're trying remixes, try it. If your account gets taken down, it's kind of the risk you got to take with the way the internet's going at the moment. Covers and all those things, they're really great ways to do it, but I'd just say my best advice is just to try a bunch of things, because you don't want to get locked into like any sort of sound or pigeonhole yourself into like doing one thing and eventually realise that that's not going to work for you, or that's not something that you want to be doing. So just do a bunch of stuff until you actually have to start doing it for a job.
Yeah. And whereabouts are you posting this music that you make? Like, what platforms are you using?
Mostly SoundCloud and Spotify. So I mean, those are kind of the two main streaming services nowadays, I'd say. SoundCloud I've kind of always been using. You can kind of tell it's dropping off a little.
Yeah.
But Spotify is definitely something that I'm getting into using a little bit more. I'm trying to get all that stuff sorted so I can just constantly use it to engage people with. So I'd say Spotify is definitely kind of the future.
To go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you want?
Yeah. How did you go about building a following on Facebook? Like, can you provide any advice for like an up and coming DJ producer who wants to start getting a platform to showcase themselves on?
I'd say organically is definitely the best way to do it. You don't want to be caught out for like buying likes or anything like that. But I did when I first started. I was doing like gates, so people would have to like my page to download a couple of songs or whatever. And it was great at the time. Like I saw my numbers going up and stuff, and that was awesome. But it led to a lot of really disengaged followers. So I had a lot of people on my page that weren't really actually interacting with anything. They were just there to grab the free song and forgot to unlike afterwards or something. So like it ended up hindering kind of how I did all my social media stuff for the longest time, and it took a while to rebuild from that. I've had a few people say it really worked for them. So personally, I'm not too sure on that. Like gates can work. I'd say just go for it organically. Like people like a couple people's kind of similar range sort of thing, like Quips and Ricky San. They had quite kind of low socials until like this year, and it started just really picking up. And I think that's really great when you see them organically picking up rather than like they've obviously gone and put this huge like campaign out because they started doing all these cool things. And I think that's really great when you see these cool things, because you also see like a lot of really engaged fans and followers and stuff, which is what at the end of the day you really kind of want. Yeah.
So what do you use your social media for mostly nowadays?
I use it mostly for sharing music, keeping people kind of up to date. You kind of want people to think you're a real person too. So like you post the occasional photo. Like mostly I go for video, so I want people to see what my live shows are kind of like, so they're kind of a little bit more incentivized to come, because you don't want people just to see that you're playing at this venue and go, oh yeah, cool, I know his music, that's fine. But I want people to know it's kind of more an experience, kind of get them amongst it, even if they're under 18 or they're different part of the world, like they can still kind of experience the whole package.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to do it. I think like lots of people don't really have a social media sense. Like just because they're a musician, they they don't have that sort of side of things.
Well, it's really hard to actually kind of get your head around it, because I'm kind of the same sometimes. Like I'm really kind of like opposite ends of it. Like sometimes I'm like wholeheartedly like, if it's not music related, I'm not going to post it. But other times I'm like, you need to just constantly get in touch with these people, because like these people, they're not going to give a shit about you if you're not kind of like a real person. Like nobody really likes this kind of nameless brands that just kind of punch out a bunch of music. Like it's cool, but like I feel like you got to interact with them. You got to do kind of stuff with them, show them that you have like a more human side. Because I mean, like at the end of the day, I am a person. Like my name's my name, so I'm like, I've kind of just entirely embodied myself and my brand, so I can't really get away from it. I may as well kind of show it out to the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Hold on, I'm just going to adjust this slightly. Oh, that's bad. Set. How, I know that your first gig operated slightly differently, but if someone is in Auckland, for example, and wants to try and be able to DJ at places like Impala or Set 9 or wherever, how should they approach it? Should they send them an email, or should they just go in and hang out with them as much as possible until they become friends? Or like, what's the best way to go about?
I think it's a bit of both. Like I think like obviously you can't just hang out with someone and expect them to give you everything, but at the same time you can't expect to like cold call someone and expect them to like hand you like a 12-to-1 set and like a peak day. So like I've heard from a lot of people, the most important thing is like you got to support what they do. Like if you're not at their shows, if you're not going there and like showing your face and stuff, then you haven't really given them enough to want to give you a chance. I think the big thing is you gotta network, you gotta support their stuff, and you gotta work hard to get that first gig, and don't expect it to be like glamorous, because you're probably gonna get stuck with the 9 to 10 slot. Like the doors open gig, you're playing to like the bartenders and stuff, but at the end of the day, that's kind of where you got to start from if you're starting from scratch. And that's if you're ambitious enough to push through it, then yeah, that's kind of what you got to do.
Is there like a lot of people in the Auckland scene who are like pushing for these slots, or?
I'd say so. Like, I mean, like, there's always, like, every time I play a gig in Auckland, there's always like a bunch of new people that I've never seen before. So like, I think it's definitely something that's in demand. Like, I mean, DJing is kind of like a cool thing to do. So a lot of people want to do it. It's cool when you see a lot of people putting in the actual hard yards to do it rather than just kind of surface level wanting to do it. But I'd say it's definitely a high in demand thing. You don't really have people having to do like 6-hour slots because there's no DJs there. So it's one of those things that you got to fight for because there's like about 100 other people who want the same thing that you do.
Yeah. And are these gigs mostly like at clubs, or is there more like late afternoon slots around, or?
I think there's a bit of both. It depends on what you want to do. So like, if you're kind of more vibesy, maybe you want to go for the late afternoon. You don't really want to go for the grimy nightclub, but like, it depends where you're going. Like, you want to find somewhere that's suited to your sound and what you want to do as a DJ or a producer or whatever. Like, I wouldn't really necessarily be suited to those like 5 o'clock afternoon sets because like I kind of play a little bit heavier than that. Whereas like I know a lot of people who make a lot more chilled music, really like nice sort of vibe stuff that would be suited to that, and it would do really well for them to push for that. So I guess it's just kind of analysing what you do and what the club does and what the certain times are doing, and then just working from that and aiming for what suits you personally.
Yeah. Do you get like a lot of people hit you up asking you for like this sort of stuff?
A lot of people. What sort of stuff?
Just sort of like, oh, can you help me like get gigs, or can you help me with this?
A lot of people ask me how you would get a gig, and like kind of my answer is always the same. Like it's I feel like I'm not necessarily the expert on it because I did kind of, like I was saying, I did kind of jump the gun there and not have to do the hard yards at the start. But I mean, like, knowing all the promoters and knowing all the people that are throwing these events and hearing them talk about people who are like trying to get shows, like you kind of pick up a bunch of stuff. And like, I think end of the day, a lot of people are asking, a lot of people want it, so you just gotta want it more.
Hard out. I'm pretty happy with this. Like, what time are we on?
17.
Yeah. I think we've asked you all the questions we like were wanting to ask you. Is there anything you want to speak about or want to talk about?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Nah, it's all good. Like, don't feel obliged.
Yeah. Shit.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, Christ. No.